Welcome everybody to this University of Michigan Biostatistics virtual admitted student experience. This is the second time we've done this experience virtually. Last year, as I mentioned to folks who were on early, we had to pivot to that with about 1 week's notice. This year, this is sort of what we've been expecting to do. Next year, I'm hoping we'll be back in person. But we will certainly maintain this opportunity to do things virtually because it does allow people from all over the country and all over the world to be here. And so we're so glad to have you here. As I said, I'm Mike Benke. I'm chair of our admissions committee. And my partner in crime here is Nicole Fennick, our program coordinator. Nicole, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Nicole Fennick. I've been in the biostatistics department for 15 years. Prior to that, I was at Rackham Graduate School for 5 years. And I consider the department to be my home, my work home. It's a wonderful place to be. And I hope that we'll get to see you this fall. And please, if you have any questions about admissions, please reach out to me. You can shoot me an email and we can set up a meeting or just answer questions by email. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Nicole. And one of the reasons it's such a pleasure for me to do admissions is getting to work with Nicole, who is a wonderful person and incredibly helpful and incredibly knowledgeable. And that 5 years of experience she had in our graduate school before joining the department means she has even more connections and more knowledge than even a very good student services person would have. And so please do take advantage of her offer. She's extremely helpful. Okay, so just briefly, what are we about today? Well, our goals are to provide you with information as you're deciding where you want to go to graduate school. And we hope to help you make your very best possible choice. Now, of course, we hope you decide your very best possible choice is University of Michigan Biostatistics. But if it's not, we totally understand and we'll wish you the very best wherever you might choose to go. We do believe, though, that ours is a great department with wonderful educational and research opportunities, and we'd love to have many of you join us in the fall. Our intent with this virtual event is to maintain some of the best elements of a regular in-person admitted student day, which, as I say, I hope we'll be going back to next year, but to exploit the advantages of the virtual format. And some of those advantages include the opportunity to have multiple different activities on the website or videos, I guess I should say, on the website that you can view. And then also be able to have conversations with faculty and students. And as I mentioned also to several people before we got started, we fully expect to continue this kind of virtual experience going forward next year along with the in-person. So again, today's interactive event will include faculty presentations, a panel of 4 of our students who can talk to you about what it's like to be a student here, and then a question and answer session at the end. And honestly, after each of the different presentations, we fully expect to have time for questions and answers and would really encourage you to pose questions so that we can be helpful in any way we can. I mentioned that there are also pre-recorded video presentations. These include a welcome from our dean, Du Bois Bowman, who actually is a graduate of this department, and our chair, Bramar Mukherjee, who will be speaking with you just in a few minutes. There are also faculty and student research presentations, student presentations on StatCom, our student-led, free-of-charge statistical consulting group for the community, and on diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI. As I mentioned, there will also be the opportunities for conversations with faculty and current students today. Now, a little bit on the way of ground rules, and these are probably now familiar now that we've all been doing distanced education for a year, but we've set things up so that you are muted to begin with, and please do stay muted during the presentations. I don't like saying this because honestly, I really like immediate questions and answer, but with this many people, now we're up to 92, I guess, it's just not practical. And so what we suggest is, rather than speaking up, please put your questions in the chat function, that circled area there on the middle lower part of your screen. We will do our very best to address either through the chat or through out loud question and answer as many of the questions as we possibly can. If there are some that are not addressed, either because we have too many questions or because we happen to not know an answer, and that happens from time to time, we'll certainly get back to you after the session with answers to those questions. And if somehow we miss, feel free to contact us to ask. And that actually is more general. If your experience is like mine, I always have questions during an event, but I invariably, when I'm walking out, I think, oh gosh, here's another question I should have asked. So please don't hesitate to come back to us with those sorts of questions. We'd be very happy to address them. This session is being recorded. So if you're not able to attend the whole session, for whatever reason, family commitment, or maybe it's just really late where you are already and you fall asleep, which I would totally understand, feel free to know that you can, in fact, go and look up the rest of the session on the website. And as in all things COVID, with our current technical solutions to problems of communication, please excuse us if there are any technical glitches today. I hope there won't be. The agenda for this interactive section has this introduction with me and Nicole. I mentioned Brahma Mukherjee, our chair, will then be giving a welcome to the department. Shushi, one of our faculty, will be giving a research presentation on statistical analysis of electronic health record data. I'll come back and talk about admissions and programs and next steps. Then 4 of our current students will be conducting a student panel where they'll say a little bit about themselves, and then you will be free to ask them questions and they'll answer them. And then at the end, for the last 15 minutes or so, Bramar and Nicole and I will be back to answer any last questions you might have. And then that will then be the end of this interactive session, and then going back to the opportunity to meet with department faculty and students in one-on-one or one-on-several settings. And I should say that if you did sign up already for those sessions, great. If you didn't, it's still possible to sign up. You can't always ignore deadlines and have it work out fine, but this is one time when it works great. We'd love to have you take part in those sessions, even if you haven't signed up already. And so if your plans have changed and you can, please do sign up. I think that was my last slide, other than to again say welcome. And so I'll stop sharing. And we are now at 10:11. We have a few minutes if people have questions you'd like to address now, or we could move on to Bramar's presentation. So any questions at this point? And actually, I should look at the chat function. Don't see anything there at the moment. Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and go to Bramar's presentation, and I'm sure there'll be questions after that and as we go forward. And again, welcome. So glad you're here. Really glad to get to see lots of faces, many of whom I know from your applications. Now nice to be able to see you, at least virtually. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Mike, and thank you for leading the admissions committee for such a long time and so brilliantly. And thanks, Nicole, for being the soul of this whole process. So welcome, everyone, to every one of you, almost now at 100 students with interest in biostatistics. Of course, I would like to welcome you to Michigan Biostatistics, but I cannot tell you that how thrilled I am to welcome 100 new people to the community of biostatistics. Wherever you go, our best wishes are with you. So I'm Brahma Mukherjee. I am the current chair of the department, and I have been in Michigan since 2006. So this is my 15th year in Michigan, and this has been a wonderful journey for me. But we actually, as a department, I just want to tell you that our department is 70 years old. It was founded in 1949. This is one of the nation's largest, finest, and I'd like to say kindest biostatistics departments. And I have had a really great time forming friendships and forming as I go on my intellectual journey. So that's what I want to communicate through my presentation, that as you are thinking about graduate school, intellectual journey is a big part of it, but the friendships that form, what you learn from your professors, from your peers, that's just priceless. And I'm so excited for you that you're about to embark on that journey. So just to give you a size of the department, that we have about 200 students in our different programs. 120 about staff members who are engaged in this massive analysis of data that goes on day to day in terms of research staff, and also to keep the engine running. And then we have 41 primary faculty, and all of our work is situated in the School of Public Health, where we are one of the 6 departments, and we're trying to do a world of good. Our mission in terms of transmitting the data science and translating the impact of data science to improving human health is a strong commitment of this department. So we always really value bold curiosity and impact. So if you look at the mission statement of the department has really strengthened classical bread and butter areas of biostatistics, including survival analysis, Bayesian methods, clinical trials, longitudinal data. The department has always been extremely exceptionally strong with one of the world's leading group, if not the leading group in statistical genetics and bioinformatics. We are also really blessed with several interdisciplinary initiatives on the Michigan campus. For example, the Michigan Institute of Data Science, the Precision Health Initiative, the Institute for Health Policy and Innovation, and the Survey Research Center. So there is really a confluence of energy that's coming from the whole campus, and biostatistics is really at the center of it. But with those classical domains of statistics, biostatistics, we are now getting new types of data, new formats of data. So the department has really grown into those directions in terms of new areas of emphasis. And we'll hear from some of our junior faculty who are working in these areas of big data, causal inference, data integration, electronic health records, mobile health, machine learning, high dimensional inference, a huge focus now on analysis of high dimensional environmental exposure data as well. With that, with the training and education that we receive, we also want to see its impact. So today's students are not just happy publishing their papers and enriching their own CV. They want to really see an impact. Even at a very early days, our students, graduate students, are grappling with questions about impact, influencing policy, science, how to emphasize on the role of diversity, equity, and inclusion in data science as well as in the society. So as a community, we have been really energized in terms of our conversations around these issues. So what does a chair do? I'm just going to talk to you about some of my vision and some of the initiatives which have been student-led that have come to the department. So the chair basically has to keep the trains running, right? So that there is no collision and there is a schedule, all the classes are on time, and faculty are getting the resources that they need. The students are getting the resources they need to continue on their mission. But a chair also can create new directions and destinations for the department. And so one of the destinations that I wanted to build in my term as chair was actually to introduce a lot of energy and resources around computation. Because we are realizing, like, I got my PhD in 2001 from Purdue. I feel my training is antediluvian. So we really need some new courses and new energy so that our students are prepared to handle the challenges of massive data sets as they go out in the workforce. So we introduced this concentration, the health data science concentration, which is an ensemble of courses. And our principle is not to teach data science as it would be taught by a computer science department or a pure statistics department. Our focus really is in health. So we designed the course concentration in a way so that you are grounded in the foundational principles of statistical inference, but then you have courses, for example, on machine learning, on sampling design, on computing with R and big data. So many students are choosing this concentration, but other students are taking a bunch of these courses. For example, this semester, 2 of our colleagues are teaching modular courses on how to analyze data from smart devices like Apple Watch, and also how to integrate different formats of data when you build a massive model. So these are the courses which I think makes Michigan stand out in terms of case studies in big data. So with that, you have to walk the talk, right? You cannot just say that I'm going to pivot and introduce more data science and computation without providing the resources. So I'm really excited and delighted that for the last 3 years, a wonderful student resource in our department has been Dan Barker and Mike Kleinsasser. These are two computing gurus who have been really interacting very closely with our students with office hours, workshops, cool things about R, and it goes throughout your education. And I think that has really inspired new ideas in terms of the computational space and provided the support that our students needed in order to get over the initial hump. Mike, for example, has developed more than 30 packages in the last 2 years of his time here. And one of his role is to work with students to take the code that they have developed, translate it into R packages so that many people can actually use it. So as statisticians and as biostatisticians, we do not really discover drugs. We really do not treat patients frontline. But this is what we do in terms of our impact, develop methods and tools which are going to lead to principled analysis and inference from big data, which will lead to knowledge and hopefully actionable knowledge. So if you go to our website, you can search different software that we develop. This is our product. These are the tools that we have developed that other peoples can embody. And then you can see that you can search the softwares by different areas. For example, if you're interested in statistical genetics, or if you are interested in a particular faculty member, what their group is doing in terms of translation of the methods, you can look at that. Along with everything, as we are all engrossed in our intellectual journey, our academics, the last year could not be a better time to think about our well-being, our personal well-being, the stress that we manage, the continuous tussle from work and life, and also now it's work from home was challenging last year. Now it's work from work is becoming challenging this year. So we are grappling with this existence of our holistic existence in terms of our intellectual domain, but also in terms of our emotional domain and mental health domain. So the department actually has an in-house student inclusion advocate and well-being advocate, Andrea Hill, who also has been an asset to our students for informal conversation, navigating graduate school, navigating stress, along with the university resources and the school resources that we formally have. So we really believe in a happy and strong community and where people are taking care of themselves and along with their really brilliant intellectual pursuits. So as COVID-19 happened, our students and faculty really rose to the challenge. And if you go to the department's page on COVID-19 research, you can see what splendid work our faculty and students have done. In particular, I'm going to mention two different projects. One is led by Holly Hotman with colleagues in the Rogel Cancer Center. She created an OnCovid app which really draws on very large national scale data and helps patients to assess that what is the delay of care they're experiencing and what can that, how that can influence their downstream consequences and their health. So this was tremendously impactful. The paper came out in a top oncology journals and also had received coverage from the Washington Post. So similarly, Peter Song and his lab developed a method which modeled the trajectory of the virus. That model and the package has been used to model the virus curve in India, in Wuhan, in Italy, in Brazil. So you can see that in a short time span, how people pivoted and quickly learned. And if you want to see some of our work, you can visit this website, this link, and you'll see that there is continuous work in vaccine safety and efficacy now. We have 2 recent R01s funded in the department on assessing vaccine safety, clinical trials in terms of contact tracing, data apps, and several grants have started to come in. So if you come into this an environment like this, you will get to work on projects which are directly influencing and impacting our daily life. And that's very empowering as a biostatistician and as a scientist. So the students have several activities. We have a very engaged and active student body, and you will see, you'll get to talk to some of them. And we have several student-led organizations and activities, some of which are pure fun. For example, 2 weeks ago, we had an event by Gather Town where we played online games in Sudoku and crossword puzzle, and I was so bad at it. But then, you know, we have graduate student seminar, journal clubs, Biostatistics Student Association, our flagship organization, Statistics for the Community. And also there is a new seminar series on diversity, equity, and inclusion that has been launched by the students. So if you look at some of the things that how our education is contemporary and data adaptive, that we really impress the tension that is going on in the society, and our students are looking for answers. And so you can see a list of topics that we discussed in this DEI seminar, which goes on to how to examine algorithmic fairness. How do you include race in the model as a covariate? How do you transfer polygenic risk scores or genetic risk scores across populations? So where data science strongly intersects with questions that are of critical interest and importance to the society and to this world. What is unique to us? Why would you come to Michigan? Because there are many excellent programs, and wherever you go, you will be successful, you will be happy. So this last 3 minutes, I'm going to give you a very unbiased pitch about Michigan. So since 2 years ago, we started this new student orientation retreat. We take students for an overnight camping trip, and you get to see faculty and students outside the classroom. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to do some form of this year as well, given the promise of July 4 starting to look more normal. And when I came to United States as a graduate student, you know, it took me 15 years to learn what s'mores were from my daughter. And I did not want that to happen to the international students who are coming to Michigan. So you can see on their first month as an international graduate student, they learn how to make s'mores. So this is something was one of my goals as chair, as silly as that may sound. So we also have journey lectures. We really take pride in this event where faculty, staff, and students get together to hear about one of our colleagues' journeys. So you can see that here you can see pictures of Professor Braun and Professor Little when they're young, and then how they found their place in statistics and in this world. And there are anecdotes about brilliant math teachers who got them engaged into statistics, personal struggles and journey, and people that helped them along the way to reach their milestones. And we also, I didn't mean to do that. And sorry. And then I just want to say that the spirit and the faculty in this department are awesome, but the relationship that faculty and students have is very, very special. We really support each other. We really care about each other, and that comes through in anything that we do. And we do want to build not just like intellectually strong department, but really happier and stronger graduates of tomorrow who are going to make a difference in the Michigan difference, hopefully. So last year was different for all of us. And as you can see that we quickly adapted to virtual modality. So this was one of the hardest thing to do, to say goodbye to our graduates virtually. But we did, and we're very proud of every student that have persevered through these challenging times and still have not given up and continuing their mission. And you are one of them. And so these are our graduates from last year. And I think that one thing I can claim novelty. So, you know, when you write scientific papers, novelty is a dangerous thing. You cannot say that nobody else has it because you never know. But I am pretty sure that no other biostat department has a departmental anthem. And if you ask Professor Little, he wrote it, composed it, and he will sing to you. But the spirit is in these last two lines. We are biostat. Michigan is where we are at. So thank you so much for being here today virtually. I'm happy to take any questions with Mike and Nicole. And I hope that you get a lot of information through this virtual visit and also see what this department and what this institution represents. Thank you so much. Go Blue.
Thanks very much, Bramar. Any questions for Bramar? We have a couple minutes.
Don't be shy. Please speak up or send your questions in chat.
I think so, Bramar, do you see the question? I have a general question. Are students allowed to take courses outside of the department?
So that is a good question. So primarily, like, one thing that students are definitely allowed to take questions outside the department, and many students take courses in statistics as well as computer science, also electrical engineering and computer science. Some students take 1 or 2 courses in survey research as well. And of course, there is a room for you, like, there is a structured path that you have to take in terms of your core courses, but then you have a choice of optional electives where you can choose relevant courses to biostatistics. But there is also other courses in terms of the public health courses. If you are interested, particularly say for example, in policy, then you can take courses from health management and policy. You can take some of the students who are interested in environmental health. They take a course which is in the environmental health sciences department, for example, using R for analyzing environmental health data. So people do take courses, but the bulk of courses, I would say, stays in the department. And that was one of the reasons the health data science concentration has really helped us, because students who are taking, we have now programming courses in Python, students who are taking Python programming courses elsewhere, students who are taking machine learning elsewhere. Now we can offer them in-house and a large cohort can take it together.
And one last question from Hannah. One of the faculty members I spoke with yesterday mentioned a sort of math bootcamp orientation for students beginning in the graduate program at Michigan. Is this something that's planned for fall of 2021?
So let me tell you a little bit about how the onboarding process goes. So we have a course which was taught last year by Hui Jiang, and this year also it's going to be taught by Professor Jiang, which is a 8-week course. Nicole, is that correct? It's a 2-credit 8-week course, and and so yes, so this is where we start with math refresher for 4 weeks, and then some basic statistics refresher. So this course used to be like a boot camp 2 weeks before, like a concurrent with the orientation, and 2 weeks in the first 2 weeks of your arrival at Michigan. But we realized that we really, so many things are going on in that week that this is not the most effective way to do the refresher. So now we do it through concurrent in terms of the semester. It's a proper course that goes on for 8 weeks in the semester where the instructor has more ability to delve deeper. But we also do, so these 8 weeks are for a formal course, but we also continue with the computing boot camps throughout these 8 weeks with the help of Mike and Dan as well, introducing people to how to use the departmental computing cluster or how to do basic visualization in R. So we continue in that realm. So there is, and also from last year, this is very important that we have provided some study group formation. And so this is one good thing that, the pandemic taught us many things which could be useful in the post-pandemic world. So we formed study groups led by senior graduate students, and this is very important for you, for all of our core courses, for example, 601, 650, the linear regression and the math stat courses, where each study group was led by a graduate student mentor, and students got together and did homework and discussed the material outside the classroom. So this happened throughout their first semester as well as their second semester. So this, we hope that we are going to continue. And that has been tremendous for our graduate students to ease into, particularly students coming from non-traditional background, to ease into, the math stat modality.
Thanks so much, Bramar. Thanks very much for the questions. And we'll move on now to Shushi, who is faculty member in the department, who will be talking about her research in the area of electronic health records. Shu, thanks very much for being here this morning.
Thank you, Mike and Bramar. And hi everyone, my name is Xuxi. I am currently an assistant professor of biostatistics in the department. I teach Biostatistics 650, which is linear regression, and it's one of the core courses that you're going to take at the very first semester of your program. So I look forward to seeing all of you. I wanted to thank everyone for your attention for me to talk about some of my recent work on statistical analysis of electronic health record data. So without further ado, let me go to the next slide. Okay, so about my research, I developed—
Shoot, I'm not seeing your screen. Is anybody else seeing it? I'm just seeing black, actually.
No, I'm just seeing black.
Okay, there we go. Perfect, thank you.
See. Sorry, let me—
No problem at all.
Okay, let me do another way of sharing. Sorry about that. Okay, so— Okay, does this work?
Looks good.
Okay, thank you, sorry. Alrighty. Okay, so let me get started on my research. I work on developing statistical methods that can provide insights from routinely collected administrative healthcare data, such as electronic health records data, insurance claims, and patient registries. So what's EHR? It's basically the digital version of the old paper-based medical records. When you visit a doctor, everything about your health, such as your diagnosis, diseases, and treatments, lab test result, radiology images and reports, everything will be linked to you and documented in a large database. And it's a dynamic database that keeps growing. The EHR data has been documented actually for billing and reimbursement purposes. But the idea that there exists such a large and cost-effective data source containing rich information about patients' medical record is really tempting, right? Of course, we want to use it for research. However, the biggest challenge here is that EHR data are not collected to answer a particular research question. Unlike other research studies where you have a specific research question and you go ahead and collect data, EHR data does not look like that. It's just routinely collected and naturally documented, so it's not meant for one particular research question. And that leads to a lot of problems. In particular, data heterogeneity is a problem, which means patients are different, healthcare providers are different, and that leads to a problem when we combine data to analyze them. Selection bias is another problem. Confounding bias is a big problem where there might be factors that drives the decision of treatment and also are predictive of the outcome. So if you don't account for those factors, they can create spurious association in your analysis of how the treatment is protecting or improving certain outcome. In addition to that, there might be missing data. People in EHR-based research often say that there are more missing data than observed data. So that's a huge issue. There are also measurement error, classification error, and patient privacy concern. All of those challenges have motivated my research. So in this talk, I'm going to first talk about the opportunity of using EHR data for research purposes, and then go into detail about two directions that I have been working on. Okay, so what is EHR data? What information is collected in EHR? Well, when we talk about EHR data, we're talking about the combination of structured and unstructured data. So what is structured data? Well, structured data essentially refers to the data that can be put into a format where we have one row per observation and one column per feature, per characteristic for a patient. And among structured data, the most important information comes from the diagnosis and procedure. So the diagnosis refers to the diseases of a patient that are documented by a type of standardized medical code called the ICD code, International Classification of Diseases. And then the provider may provide some treatment, which is documented by a type of standardized medical code called the CPT code, Current Procedural Terminology Code. The ICD and CPT code have been called the billing code because once you visit a doctor, what happens next is that a bill will be generated and will be sent to the insurance company for reimbursement. So such code have been standardized in order to create a common language between the healthcare provider and the insurance company. Why do we need that? Well, it's because for every single disease, there are so many different ways to talk about them. For example, I can say someone had COVID or COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 virus infection. So we need a standardized way to talk about a particular disease and document them in EHR data. So that means EHR structured data are pretty nice because as statisticians, we're good at dealing with structured format data that will have one row per patient, one column per feature. However, when we talk about unstructured data, there are text and images. For text that come from your progress notes, which documents the conversation between the patient and the provider, and also your medical histories, as well as reports that's written down by radiologists by looking at your radiology images. All of those data are high dimensional data that does not have a structure. So before analyzing EHR data, there are already a lot of procedure and methods that needs to be developed in order to extract the structured and unstructured data into a format. So, for example, we might use natural language processing methods to extract based on the radiology report. Does the patient have bone erosion? And that will come down to a column of yes/no binary indicator. So from EHR data to data that you can analyze, there have been methods developed to deal with missing data, to impute missing data, to reduce error from measurement error and misclassification, and also to extract knowledge from unstructured data. Now, all of those structured and unstructured data have been called phenotype because it describes the disease or health status of a patient. On top of phenotype, there's also genotype information. And at University of Michigan, people are doing something really big. They're combining and linking genotype and phenotype data together through the Michigan Genome Initiative. So the MGI essentially enroll patients through the UMich Hospital, which allows us to collect patients' biospecimens, which are tissue or blood sample, from which we can collect genomic information. And that is combined with the consent to have access to patients' EHR data, which collects phenotype data. If you have heard of something called genome-wide association study, that is looking at the association between the full spectrum of genetic variables with one single phenotype variable. On the contrast, you can also conduct pheno-wide association study, looking at the association between one single genotype variable and a full spectrum of phenotype variable. With MGI, we are empowered to do many by many association. We can look at so many different research questions, and that is quite powerful. So far, as of December 2020, we have more than 80,000 consented MGI participants, among which 50,000 have been genotyped. So why do we care about all of this? Why are we so excited about EHR data-based research? Well, for me personally, the biggest reason is for learning health system, in the sense that we're in a position to create the first generation of methodologies that can harness EHR data to foster knowledge that can lead to better care. So from the point of care where the clinicians interact with patients, and such interaction can generate EHR data that goes into biomedical research, which generates knowledge that can serve as evidence for better care and help the clinician to make better decisions. So it feeds back to the point of care. So this is a positive cycle, and we as biostatisticians play a key role in the process of generating knowledge from EHR data. So let me give you a little bit idea about what I mean by from EHR data to knowledge. Here is a matrix of 9 different research areas that allows us to extract knowledge from EHR data. I myself spent a long time in observational study and causal inference. This is exciting because if you think about a clinical trial, for example, let's say we have conducted clinical trial to evaluate the efficacy of COVID-19 vaccine. And in this clinical trial, we have enrolled patients through inclusion-exclusion criteria, and we have shown that the vaccine is actually helping us to protect us from infection. Now, once the vaccine has its label and is posted on the market, the problem comes in that the population who will actually take the vaccine can be very different from the population in the clinical trial. And for this real world population who are actually taking the vaccine, their health outcome, their treatment are all documented in real time in EHR data. So such data allow us to provide a unique source of information that allow us to actively monitor the effectiveness and safety of vaccine and all other kinds of medication that's regulated through FDA and CDC. And that's what we do. So within causal inference, we develop a lot of methods that allows us to control for confounding bias. And we're talking about both measured and unmeasured confounding bias. In addition to observational study, there are also studies that utilize EHR and claims data to make health policy decision. And also, when we talk about phenotype data from EHR data, these can be subject to misclassification bias. So there are methods developed to generate phenotyping algorithm and determines whether patients have a particular disease or not. And on top of that, there are risk prediction methods where you can actually embed your R code into the EHR system that provides real-time risk score to the clinician and physician to make better decisions. There are personalized medicine method development where you think about what treatment, what drug should be given to whom, and how do we tailor treatment according to the uniquely evolving health status of every single patient. There are phenome-wide and genome-wide association study. We can integrate data from different sources to answer a wider range of questions. And we harmonize data across different healthcare systems. Eventually, we also think about how can we protect the privacy of patients and do analysis without touching individual level data. All of those are very exciting areas. And I'm going to talk about two directions that I have been devoting my time on. The first one is data harmonization. The reason we conduct data harmonization is because of the challenge that EHR data, they don't talk to each other. What do I mean by that? Well, if you look at the figure in the bottom, there are ICD codes between two healthcare systems, the Partners Healthcare and the VA. VA is one of the biggest healthcare systems that covers all the veterans in the US. These are ICD-9 codes, and you can see that when we want to document something called shortness of breath or hardness in breathing, the Partners Healthcare may choose to use 786.09, which is one particular medical code, whereas at VA, people may choose to use 786.05. And that leads to a lot of problems because suppose I developed a model using data from Partners and I want to apply it to data from the VA, then the variables that I use to extract the data can be quite different. So if you don't adjust for the difference in the languages between different healthcare systems, your model would just not work at a different healthcare system. Now, how do we generate those mapping? Well, the idea here is that we think of data, EHR data from each healthcare system as human language. For example, I can think of data from Partners Healthcare as English and data from the VA as Spanish. And I can apply language translation methods to translate medical codes such that I can make them talk to each other. The way we do that, the challenge here is that we're doing language translation without having access to the language data, in the sense that you can't really have access to individual level patient data, but rather what we do is to extract population level summary statistics that talks about the pairwise relationship between medical codes. From that, we can learn the relationship between, for one particular English word, what's the closest Italian or Spanish word in the other system that allows us to create such mapping. So underlying all of those procedures are statistical methodology and theories that make sure that we can do a good job in harmonizing EHR data. So this is one particular work that I do. The other range that I work on is causal inference. So we collect EHR data from over the nation, and those data are from sits behind the firewall of our data partner. and I collaborate with FDA's Sentinel Initiative and the CDC to actively monitor the effectiveness and safety of all medical products that's regulated. And in this process, the biggest challenge is that in EHR data, it might not contain all the information you want. There might be confounders that are measured through EHR data, but there might also be important confounders that are not measured. And I developed methods that allows us to identify the causal effect while using just the observed data to uncover the hidden bias due to something that is unobserved. And in addition to that, I also developed estimation procedure that can combine multiple estimation strategy into a big strategy that is more robust and efficient. On top of that, we also think about how do we integrate data from different sources and protect patient privacy, but by only using the summary statistic rather than touching individual level data. So with that, the last thing I wanted to say that I did not do any of those by myself. The best part of conducting EHR-based research is that you get to work with a bunch of great people. And here is my PhD and postdoc advisors, as well as my collaborators. Many of them are faculty at the University of Michigan. We, as a big team, are collaborating together and devoting our time to transform the way that we extract knowledge from EHR data. And we welcome you to join us. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Xu. That was really interesting. Xu, that was really interesting. Questions?
Any questions?
And feel free to just speak up right now, I think, if people would like. We don't want to get confused with other questions going on in the chat at the moment.
Hi, I have a question. Do EHR study participants provide informed consent, and how do you regulate this if you're like drawing on national databases?
That is a very great question. Yes, for example, at the MGI, we do have to have patients in informed consent, and within the consent, the patient allow us to get access to their EHR data over time, which means we can have access even to their future health records. In addition, in fact, the MGI is expanding. We're going deep. We're not only having access to EHR data, we're also conducting survey study to extract more health behavior or diet type of question from the patients. And we're also collecting data from Apple Watch. That is also, from what I know, one of the future projects to extract more information from the patients. And in terms of collecting data from data partners over the nation, that also involves patient consent. So what we do is that we only get access to we only send codes from a data center to all of the data partners and extract summary statistics that does not reveal any identity from the patient, and then combine them to answer a particular question. So within that, there are a lot of research opportunities to think about how can I get the same result without even touching individual lab data and only using summary statistics. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I also wanted to ask, I've heard of GWAS all the time, but I haven't heard of FWAS. Is that becoming more common now?
Yes, definitely. We're using, at Michigan, we even have multiple websites where you can go into the website and utilize the MGI data in the backbone to conduct a pheno-wide association study where you look at the association between one particular genetic variant that you're interested in with the full spectrum of ICD codes that are grouped into phenotype codes. So I welcome you to go to the MGI website and look into those websites and play with the tools online.
Other questions? Okay, and it's worth noting that MGI actually started through efforts from people in this department, and despite a hiatus with COVID, we're expecting to start collecting additional individuals, and in fact have begun that already, but expect it to accelerate soon. Any last question for Xu? Okay, well, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation.
Thank you everyone for your attention.
Okay, so I will again try to share my screen here. Okay. People seeing that okay? And I'm not seeing any of you, so can someone speak up if you are seeing it or not?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Okay, so in this session, I'll be talking about admissions and programs and next steps. I'm still Mike Benke. And so some of this information you've seen from Bermar already, but we think it's important. We do have 170 residential students, about half master's, half PhD. That's pretty typical for us to have that sort of half-half mix. We have 41 faculty. We now have close to 2,000 alumni from the department, and that number is growing quickly. This last year, our department has brought in more than 30 million of research funds. And as Bermar mentioned, we are part of the University of Michigan School of Public Health, one of the great schools of public health in the country. And we are one of 6 departments, along with environmental health sciences, epidemiology, health behavior, health education, health management policy, and human nutrition. Our admissions process this year has been exciting. We've had the largest number of applicants ever, 590, about 2-to-1 master's versus PhD. As of now, we've admitted 293 people to the master's program and 37 to the PhD program. Of the 293 to the master's, 21 are fully funded in the sense of stipend, tuition, and insurance. 18 have been offered partial tuition funding. For the PhD, all students are fully funded, and of the 37, 15 have come from our current master's program in biostatistics. I can't tell you what the composition of this next year's cohort is going to be in terms of backgrounds, but to give you an idea of what we typically see, last year we had 38 incoming master's students, 23 from our sort of modal groups of mathematics and statistics, often the majority groups. But still substantial numbers, 15 from other areas, notably the biological and social sciences and other areas. We really value this diversity of background. We obviously like having people with math and statistics backgrounds, but because biostatistics is inherently a collaborative field, a field that brings together people with different expertise, we believe it's really helpful to have a diversity of backgrounds for our students. So you begin to experience that kind of interaction with people from different disciplines right away. In parallel, the number of students we had join our PhD program last year was 24. In the case of the PhD program, almost all students come from statistics or biostatistics, had one other from biology, one from computer science. As Bermar has said, we have a wide range of research areas represented in the department. Big data, computationally intensive methods, statistical genetics and genomics and bioinformatics, imaging, Bayesian methods, survival, event history and longitudinal data, survey methods, missing data, clinical trials, and of course nowadays, infectious diseases. There's substantial research going on in the department in the area of COVID, as Bermar mentioned, clinical trials of potential treatments, monitoring at-risk health workers using wearables, social media data as proxies for COVID-19 outcomes, host genetics of risk to COVID-19 infection, recommended treatment for cancer patients in the context of COVID. And if you go to that website, and you can find it easily when you go to our departmental website, you'll see that there are more than 30 projects ongoing already in the area of COVID in our department. Talking about then our different graduate programs, the Master of Science, or MS, and the Master of Public Health, MPH, programs are very, very similar. Honestly, almost all of our students choose to enroll in the Master of Science program, even if they did apply to the Master of Public Health. But the content of those programs is very similar. Both are 48-hour credit hour programs over 4 semesters. So the semester this year is going to start the end of August. The year will end in late April, sort of 8 months this year, and then a similar period, 8 months the next year, would be the duration for the master's program. At least 36 of those credit hours are in biostatistics, 3 in epidemiology, 1 in general public health. And then in answer, and other courses I guess we don't need that second in, but other courses in other areas, including biostatistics and computational methods and big data, but also, if you wish, other areas like public health or epidemiology or genetics or any area to which biostatistics can be applied. And so in answer to that earlier question, can you take courses outside of biostatistics? Absolutely, you can. Now, one thing that makes the Master of Public Health different from the Master of Science is the Master of Public Health requires an internship, typically done in the summer between the first and second years of the master's program. When you complete our master's program, you're prepared to go out and be an effective applied statistician, biostatistician, working in any of a variety of areas, and typically as a team member. Master's coursework in the department includes our theory sequence of 601, 602, the probability theory and the statistical inference, 650, 651, and 653, statistical methods courses, and then our capstone course, 699, titled Analysis of Biostatistical Investigations, but I bet if you ask people in the department, there's at least a third of them who don't know what the actual title is. We all call it 699. It's a wonderful class that really is a great capstone to a master's program and is actually a requirement for our PhD students. In that class, you'll have the experience of doing multiple projects. An instructor will come in and say, okay, I'm now wearing my scientist hat. Here's the kind of study I'd like to do. Here's the kind of questions I would like to ask. Help me design the study. Okay, now we've designed the study. Here are the data. Go out and analyze those data. Do it in a statistically rigorous way, but come back and present it to me both orally and in writing in a way that I, as a non-biostatistician, can understand. An incredibly valuable course, one that truly makes a difference to our graduates. In addition to those required courses, there are biostatistics electives, typically 4 courses, and additional electives, 2 or 3 courses. Bramar mentioned our relatively recent, now 2-year-old, health data science concentration. It is officially a subplan of our Master of Science degree, but the classes are available to all biostatistics students. It combines statistical methods and computing to analyze large-scale health data. And it offers new courses that I'll list on the next slide that, again, are available to all biostat students. These courses include, well, first, the standard required courses for the department. In addition, courses on computing for data analytics, the R and Python and C++ modules that Bramar previously mentioned, a course in statistical computing focused on algorithms, a course focused on computing with big data, another on introduction to health data science, another on machine learning, and then a case studies course in health big data. Our PhD program typically requires 3 to 4 years post-masters, 5 to 6 years post-bachelors. And in terms of coursework, typically 1 more year after completing the Michigan Master's coursework. So a total of 3 years of coursework is typically what we expect. In that PhD program, beyond taking 699 and any of the master's coursework you have not yet completed, we require a course in advanced calculus, sometimes called real analysis, a second-year theory sequence on statistical inference, a semester on stochastic processes, and then another 6 courses. There's a qualifying exam, a dissertation, and a PhD in biostatistics puts you in a position to be a team leader, where you can go out and lead research, also a team player, but the potential to be a team leader, also to be a faculty member, if you might be interested in that direction. We fund a lot of our students. This year, I guess if I add those up quickly, I think I get to, 124. We have 19 students working as graduate student instructors, also known as teaching assistants. These are folks who will work helping a faculty member teach a course. Most often are service courses. These are courses for non-majors, mostly other public health students, but not biostatistics students. Other smart people interested in public health, but who just don't have as much background in mathematics and statistics. We also have a smaller number of courses within our own department, some of the core courses, for which GSIs are required. We have a much larger number, 89 this year, of graduate student research assistants. These are positions in which you might be doing applied research in the sciences or methods work and statistical methods development. We have 89 positions as GSRA right now. And then we have some fellowships. We have our genome science training program, which I lead, the cancer biostatistics training program that Jeremy Taylor leads, and then a variety of different fellowships within the university, and also some that are federally funded through the NIH or NSF. And fellows are supported to take classes and do research. Actually, one other source of funding that's not listed there is we have some partial tuition fellowships to pay a portion of one's tuition. StatCom has been mentioned a couple of times already. StatCom is a community outreach program provided by our graduate students and those in statistics and the program for survey methodology at the University of Michigan. StatCom offers the expertise of our graduate students free of charge to nonprofit, governmental, and community organization in the areas of data organization, analysis, and interpretation. StatCom is a great way to get involved in research, particularly for students who are not already supported, but also for supported students, and a way to make a difference in our community and in our society. It's a great organization. One of the things I really like to be able to say as a faculty member in biostatistics, and for all of these years to serve as our admissions committee chair, is job opportunities in biostatistics are superb. The department's reputation, the importance of the field of biostatistics, the strength of the students we bring in, help graduates find great jobs in the United States and around the world. Positions are in universities and other research centers, in government, in industry, with a particular focus on the pharmaceutical and biotechnology industries. The department posts notices of positions, hosts recruiters, and the School of Public Health Career Services Office is particularly helpful in terms of general job search kind of questions like resume writing and preparing for job interviews. Here's a very limited, very recent list of positions our recent graduates have taken. You can see a wide variety of places in terms of academia, a whole bunch of different companies, multiple places within the government. Okay, so here we are. For fully funded students, your decision deadline will be April 15th, as it should be for all major research universities in the US. If you need until April 15th, by all means, take that time. You're making an important decision. If you happen to decide early, we'd love to hear about it. We'll be delighted if you say yes. We'll be disappointed if you say no, but that will make us, put us in a position to make additional offers to other really strong students who have not been offered funding yet. Right after we know who's coming, so very early on April 16th, for those of you as funded students who come, you'll be getting a questionnaire from us asking, would you prefer to be a GSI or a GSRA? Are there particular areas of biostatistics, particular faculty with whom you might like to work? We can't guarantee you these selections, but these will be important as we think about what the match might be. The results of your questionnaires will be sent to all of the faculty in the department who have positions available. They will then rank the students in terms of their area of interests. And then Nicole and I will work to match students and faculty. Typically, this results in one of your top selections. Not always, we can't guarantee, but typically it does. And the reason for that, if you think about it, is if you were to say you're interested in working with Shu Shi, for example, I suspect Shu will look more carefully at your application than someone who doesn't indicate her as being someone they'd like to work with. Questionnaires will be due back about a week later. Nicole and I will then be doing the student and position matching. New student orientation will be August 23rd to 27th, and first day of classes will be August 30th. And so those last two lines are relevant for everybody. That will be student orientation and first day of classes for all students. For those of you who are offered admission to the master's program without funding, unfunded master's students are a very important part of our program, and we really welcome you and work hard to give you the best possible experience we can, along with all of the students. Master's students who are unfunded are considered for departmental funding when opportunities arise. Occasionally, we will have additional GSI and GSRA positions with full stipend and tuition. Typically, a handful of such positions become available within the department. Others might become available outside the department, and paying attention to those possibilities certainly makes sense. A more routine, more frequent opportunity is temporary hourly positions in which you can use your skills in statistics and computing to do useful work, interesting work, useful for learning, but also interesting from the point of view of providing an hourly wage. Temporary hourly positions, unfortunately, do not provide tuition. And so bottom line from my perspective is if you come as an unfunded master's student, by all means, expect to be looking for opportunities for some level of funding, but at least be prepared for the possibility of paying for all 4 semesters. Do know that all PhD students are funded. So if your ultimate goal is a PhD in biostatistics, know that the most you'll be paying for is 4 semesters. So there are lots of issues over the last year with COVID and the impact on our society in all sorts of different ways, and including on graduate school. Our president, Mark Schlissel, gave a talk yesterday in which he described the plan for the university going forward for the next academic year, with the clear expectation of having an in-person instruction in fall semester of 2021, at least for small and medium-sized courses, with larger courses still expected, at this point at least, to be virtual. Now, things can change, and this plan makes the assumption, I think valid assumption, that most people by come September will in fact have been vaccinated, and that the variants don't run wild. We have to pay attention, and that plan can change depending upon what happens with those variables. What you can certainly know is we want to be in person. We want to have the opportunity to provide you that opportunity for in-person education, and that's certainly what we're striving for, but only in the context of safety for all. It's fair to say in these COVID times that public health is now more important than ever, and you can really make a difference, and Michigan Biostatistics can help you do that. This is actually something our dean put out just early on in COVID times that I've personally found very meaningful. Our shared public health values include, we believe in compassion. Our work is born from compassion, leading to knowledge, research, and action. We believe in innovation. Through creative problem solving and innovative thinking, we lay the groundwork for a healthier world. We believe in inclusion. We work with diverse talents across the campus and across the world to bring together ideas. More than ideas, we partner to create lasting solutions. And we pursue impact. The ultimate goal of our work is to create positive change and have a lasting effect on the health of the world. As I said, that was from our Dean Du Bois-Bowman, a graduate of our department. Going forward, we will certainly be answering your questions now and more later on in this session. If you should end up with questions after of any sort, please do feel free to contact Nicole. Her contact information is there and also all over our website. Fatma Najari is our other wonderful student services person. Her contact information is there. I'm always happy to talk about our program. Actually, it seems to me that putting down my phone number there is probably not the best choice right now because I haven't been to my office in about a year right now. So I'll make sure you all have my cell phone number in case there's some desire for a phone call, although email is probably the most best initial way to go about. And then, of course, you can visit us online at that site. Picture of students, and I think that's it for me. So why don't I stop sharing and open things up for questions, please. Oh, there's apparently a fair number. Nicole, did you want to read them to me, or what should I be doing here?
So there are a couple that I haven't answered yet. So Kazim had a question about, is there a possibility of switching to the PhD after the first year of your master's?
We typically don't do that. The application for the PhD comes in the first semester of the second year. And so, you'll be learning typically in February of the second year, but we generally don't allow that unless there were some particularly unusual circumstances. Maybe we misunderstood the program you'd had before, misevaluated it. But I think I can only think of one time in my 37 years here where that's happened, which is not to say it'd never happen again, but that would be unusual. Yeah. And the other question?
So Mike,
there are some questions, a couple. Sorry, go ahead, Ramar.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ramar.
Go ahead, Nicole, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. There are a couple of questions about this, the fast track. So the first one is, what is the fast track? What is the MS to PhD fast track? And the second one is the fast track a special track, or can anyone declare it?
Yeah. So the fast track came about when we had a requirement of our second year theory sequence, those courses 801 and 802 that I mentioned, the statistical inference, doctoral level statistical inference courses, were required for the qualifying exam. And at that time, taking those courses in the second year of the master's program represented a way to move more quickly through the requirements of the program by allowing a student at the end of the master's program to take the PhD qualifying exam. 801, 802 are no longer required for the qualifying exam. Nonetheless, the option remains for a student who would like to go from the master's to the PhD program to take 801, 802, that second level theory sequence, in their second year of the master's program. So that really is the fast track, taking those two courses nominally, and in fact, actually, PhD level courses in the second year of the master's program, and therefore move more quickly through program requirements. And yes, it is available to everyone. It's a place where I would really encourage you to talk to your advisor, because if there is some reasonable chance you're going to stop with the master's program, those courses, 801, 802, the theory, second year theory, may or may not be the best choice for the courses you would want to take if you are stopping with a master's degree. If you're quite intent, quite expecting to go on to the PhD, then it can be a great option. But there are lots of great options because we have so many good courses for people to take.
Okay. Let's see. Are there any opportunities for incoming students over the summer?
So this is sometimes something that sometimes works. It's what I call early start. And for our genome science training program, which I mentioned a little bit ago, this is something we routinely try to offer. If students know that they're available, if you have the trip of a lifetime planned for the summer, which probably you don't in COVID times, but if you did, you should still do that. But if you're not, if you have the ability to start graduate school early, then if you're going to be working as a GSRA, talk to your GSRA mentor and ask her or him, is this something that might be possible? I think it's great for those who can do it, because when you start in August 30th or whatever our start date is, I guess, trying to start classes and at the same time start a research project and at the same time be, adapting to living in Ann Arbor, that's a lot to be taken on all at once. And so if you're your RA advisor, or you're working on one of the training grants, talk to the faculty mentor and see whether starting early might be possible.
There's a question, would there be a possibility of knowing if there are available temp paid positions before admission decision due date?
I don't know. Are those, when can one view what's available? Is that only for people who are already at Michigan? Or I don't know how that works. What would be fair to say is if you learn about them now, before April 15th, the chance of those positions still being available on August 30th is not zero, but is really close to zero. Those positions tend to cycle pretty quickly. On the other hand, what would be cool, and I don't know if anybody does here, it'd be cool to be able to look at a listing of what is available on campus. But I suspect the personnel office on campus would not let that be accessed by others. Does anybody know? Bramar, do you know? Nicole, do you know?
Yeah, so I think that the typical process is to actually look closer to the arrival date and sort of rely on chance. And you can talk to our current resident students that many of them were able to find something near to their start date, because usually these temp positions are because you just suddenly got funding and you have a project, for example, like, with COVID, people have short-term projects and they want somebody to start in the summer and complete the project. But closer to your start date, it's more reasonable. And I also want to mention that these temp opportunities are not just in biostatistics, it's cross campus. Many people want help with analyzing data in many of the institutes which are data savvy, as well as there are teaching positions also across the campus where people also teach certain courses in other departments. Those are relatively fewer, but I think that all of this exploration starts after you accept, and you sort of have to rely a little bit on chance that there is a likelihood that you'll find something.
Yeah, following up on Bramar's comment about finding teaching positions in other departments, particularly for those of you who come from different backgrounds than math or statistics, we've had multiple students, for example, be teaching assistants, or graduate student instructors, as we call them here, in the social sciences and in the biological sciences. And so those are other possibilities that can certainly be pursued. Yeah.
Okay, there are several other questions, Mike. Do you want me to just keep going?
Great.
Okay. How likely is it for MS students to be admitted to the PhD program, and are unfunded students considered equally favorable compared to funded students?
Yeah, so if we've been talking up until 2 years ago, I would have told you about 90% of the students who applied to go on from the master's program to the PhD program were admitted to do so. The last 2 years, we've had very large numbers of unfunded master's students and very large numbers of students applying to go on to the PhD. The result of that has been, in the last 2 years, we had last year about 50%, a little over 50% of people who applied to go on were admitted to the PhD program. This year, it's going to end up somewhere between 60 and 70%. That's smaller than I would like. That's honestly a lot larger than is true from a lot of our sister departments of biostatistics. But that's where things stand right now. We give equivalent consideration, we believe, to funded and unfunded students, but funded students have a higher proportion accepted to go on to the PhD. And so it'd be closer to 90% for funded students and closer to 50% for unfunded students. 60% for unfunded students this year, I think. Yeah, but still quite high percentage, but less than it was even a couple of years ago.
Yeah. There's a question about, let me see. Is the qualifying exam at the culmination of the MS program, or is it used for entrance or at the beginning of the PhD program?
It's really at the beginning of the PhD program. And depending upon where you did your master's, it might be right after your master's program if you did it at the University of Michigan, because you're all set up for that. If you did your master's somewhere else, it may still be possible to do it right at the start of your program. It may be that you'd be doing it a bit later. And I should say our qualifying exam has been in a state of flux as we've tried different models to see which ones we like best. But I think what I've just told you is in fact true. Bramar, do you have any more intelligence on that?
So I think that, I was looking at some of the questions that, I think that, it's fast track students, right? So there was a question about fast track students as well. I think that, students typically will take the qualifying examination right after, so either after the first year of their PhD or right after master's. That would be my typical impression going through, just recollecting.
Yeah, there's no question about that. It's either right at the start or after a year of the PhD program. Yeah. Does the program allow for deferred admission? I just saw that come up and I wanted to address that, to be sure to address that. Historically, pre-COVID, we have routinely allowed people to apply for deferral of admission, and we have almost always granted that deferral if there was any sort of reasonable reason. We didn't necessarily defer financial support. And in fact, typically we did not. Last year, we made a blanket decision at about this time, I think, to offer deferral to literally everybody to whom we'd offered admission. And we did that because the situation with COVID was so uncertain. I don't know that we're going to do that this year. We have not yet decided. It's clearly something we need to decide soon to let you all know. But do know that applying for deferral is something that does happen independent of COVID, and we would certainly entertain applications for deferral. And if that is important to you, please send me an email, and we will for sure get back to you, or Nicole, and we will for sure get back to you quite soon about what the plan will be for this year. I'm really hoping, pressed thumbs, crossed fingers, whatever you like, that we really will be in person this year. Other questions?
There's a question about if you take the 800 series course in the second year as a master's student, does that mean that there will be one less year of courses after entering the PhD program?
Yeah, it won't make a whole year difference. It'll mean there's just more flexibility in terms of the courses you'll take, the time you'll have to take them. It will mean that you have gotten the sort of theory basis for what you're doing in hand sooner, which has an advantage from the point of view of going forward on defining a dissertation project and being prepared to work on that dissertation project.
Yeah, I'll just add to that several of the PhD students that have done the master's and gone on to the PhD program within our department tend to advance to candidacy a little more rapidly because they have gotten some of the coursework under their belt in the master's program. The candidacy requirements, there are several courses that you need to complete, and by taking 801 and 802 in the master's program, you've completed those two courses and you have time to take other advanced coursework to advance to candidacy.
Expected cohort size came up in the chat, I noticed. I'd love to know. I'm always eager to know this time of year. Last year looked like it was going to be 70 until COVID. It had ended up being, I think, was it 62? Is that what we ended up as? I think that's right. 70, yes. Maybe it was going to be 71. I'm not sure. That would have been our largest ever. 62 is our second largest ever, maybe. So if we take the typical breakdown, which is sort of 2 masters and 1 PhD, then if you made me guess, I'll throw out 40 masters and 20 PhDs, or a few more masters and a few more PhDs than that. But that would be my rough guess. But it's actually you all's choice, not ours at this point, that's going to determine what those numbers actually look like.
There's a question about advising that Bamar has already answered, but maybe other students are wondering about advising. Bamar, do you want to add to that?
So I think academic advising, I think we have a hierarchical structure, multi-level academic advising. And we start with like peer mentoring, which has been really, really successful, of pairing each incoming student with a resident student because the experience is very real and very recent. And then when you come in, you have individual faculty advisor, and then we also have cohort advisor, 3 or 4 or 5 This time, I think there were 6 cohort advisors for each year who divide up the whole incoming cohort into groups and talk to them. And so those meetings usually happen once or twice a semester, whereas communication with your individual faculty advisor is probably more constant. And then your peer mentors also help us.
So we're really focused on giving multiple opportunities, multiple ways, and multiple different advices, honestly, because, you know, ultimately it's your career path, your set of choices, but we want to make it as easy as possible for you to have as much useful information as you're making your decisions, making your choices. Yeah. So that's maybe a really good time to transition to our student panel. Bramar and Nicole and I will continue to ask questions, answer questions after the student panel. But Ben, are you here? I can't see all the different faces all at once. I think Ben Brennan was going.
I am here.
Hey, Ben, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Fine, thanks. So Ben has kindly agreed to, I think, chair the panel. And so, Ben, may I just turn it over to you?
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone, for taking time on a Saturday to come, and congratulations to everyone on your admission to the program. It's pretty impressive, so you should all applaud yourself. Yeah, so I mean, I think that the purpose of this panel is just for you guys to ask questions to students. There's 4 of us here, I think. Olivia, Hera, Shumanga, is everyone here?
Yes, I'm trying to add them all to the spotlight right now.
Ah, cool. Yeah, so I guess we can do just like a quick introduction and stuff. And, you know, I mean, there's some great presentations obviously today, and I hope you guys got a lot of good information about the program. You know, there's good academic side of everything, and, you know, but there's also a personal side and stuff that you guys probably want to know about student life. And that's why we're here. So please do ask questions. So we'll just do some quick introductions. My name is Ben. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico originally. I did half my undergrad at University of New Mexico, and I graduated with a degree in applied math and economics from the College of Charleston. I started here in the MS program actually in 2017. I graduated this past May during the pandemic. So I was part of that virtual graduation. You already saw a photo of me. And yeah, so I can, you know, answer some questions about like the admissions process from like MS to PhD. You know, a lot of questions about the MS program, about like preparing for qualifying exams, whatever, things like that. Yeah, so that's just a little bit about me.
I can go next. Hi, everyone. My name's Olivia. I'm a second-year master's student, and I'm born and raised in Lansing, Michigan, so just north of Ann Arbor. I did my undergrad at the University of Oklahoma in pure mathematics, and then I came here the semester after graduating. I work as a graduate student research assistant as a statistical consultant for the graduate school, and I'll be graduating this coming spring and leaving the department for a full-time job, which is both exciting and bittersweet, but I'm intimately familiar with the SPH Career Office, and in particular, be happy to answer any questions you have about applying for jobs and how SPH really helps you find a good career after you graduate.
Hi everyone, I'm Hera, and I'm a first-year PhD student, but I came here for my master program too. So I did my undergrad in China and I came here. So if you guys have any questions, especially international students, I would love to share some of my experience with you. And also, as Nicole and Mike mentioned before, I'm leading the peer mentor committee. So if you guys are finally decide to join us, I will see you, and I will try my best to pair some good international students with you to share more experience here.
Yeah, so if anyone, you know, just we'll open the floor, I guess, for questions. And, you know, feel free to ask whatever you want. We do have a Zoom session, I think, set up for after this, and then one at 9 p.m. too. So if you have questions that you're shy to ask in front of faculty, we will be there too as well. So we have, what is life like in Ann Arbor? what kind of things do graduate students do for fun? Life in Ann Arbor is really nice. I mean, it's a really nice city. It's small, so you get a nice sense of community. I grew up in a bigger city and a huge city, so coming here was like a little bit of a downgrade in terms of size. It's a really healthy city. I mean, it's really beautiful in the fall. You know, the winter's cold, but you get used to it pretty quick. There's a lot of like good restaurants, things to do for fun. I mean, you're 40 minutes from Detroit, so if you want to go to a big city, you can go to a big city, and I would recommend that, you know, you take advantage of that. Olivia, Hera?
Yeah, I can add. I would definitely say that Ann Arbor is kind of a quintessential college town. There definitely is, like, life is somewhat centered around the university, which is kind of fun if you're into that. And if you're not from the Midwest, there's a bunch of Midwestern charm. We've got our cider mills, we've got kayaking, and just really great hiking trails in the Arboretum that are really fun to check out. And life has been a little bit different since quarantine started, but a lot of those outdoor activities is still very relevant in a quarantine world.
I think like if you guys are into like snow related sports, Ann Arbor is a good place for you. And also it's really good to just go for a run because there are several parks and hiking trails here. So a lot of like outdoor sports to do. And also there are a lot of like good bookstores, Ann Arbor local library, and also our libraries. Those are really good places to go.
Yeah, I'll add too, it's, you know, it's a very kind of eccentric place in the sense that, you know, there's a lot of people from all over the world here, and, you know, you get a lot of different perspectives on a lot of things. So yeah, I mean, I think in general, it's a fantastic place to live. I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it much more than I thought I would enjoy it, and I thought I would enjoy it at the beginning. So next question, are there any funding opportunities for international students? Hera, can you answer that one?
Okay, so for international students, before you came here, before I came here, I think I was an unfunded international student, but after a year, when you start to talk to some professors in our department, you might get the chance to work with them during the summer. And potentially, if you guys decided to work together to do some further work, you might get the chance to have the hourly paid RA position. And also during that summer, you will get the chance to fill out a survey that might give you the position for GSI or GSRA in the coming year. But those are all based on matching. Like if the professors you are interested actually have the position for you, that will count you as like very lucky. But otherwise, probably you have to like you won't get the opportunity. So that's my answer. But for all the international PhDs, you will get a stipend and you will get your insurance tuition waived.
Thanks, Hera. For the next question, I just want to say thanks for everyone for asking questions. I've been on so many Zoom calls where no one asked any questions. So it's really nice that you were actually asking questions, so thank you. Do graduate students tend to live off campus more often than the on-campus grad student opportunities? Yes. So first year, about half of my cohort, I'd say, maybe like a little bit less than half, lived in Munger, which is the graduate residences. It's a really nice place to live. I think there's like 6 or so people per like dorm, but it's actually a really nice dorm, I say, but like, you know, there's a big kitchen and like a big living room, and everyone has their own room with a full-size bed. And it's kind of it's a very like social environment, and the fact that there's people from every different school, you know, there's people from like Ross, from Ford, from the law school, you know, everyone can live there. So it's really cool. After the first year, I don't know any of my friends who continue to live in Munger. So people do tend to live off campus, especially after their first year. And I would recommend probably doing that because there are a lot of good opportunities off campus. Ann Arbor's not a super expensive city. I mean, it's, you know, it's like on par with like Chicago. You're not going to pay as much as you would in like New York, but like also not as much as you would pay like in, say, Lansing or something. And you know, there's definitely like different neighborhoods, I would say, that like you would want to live in, and then different neighborhoods you'd probably want to avoid. And that's mostly because of like undergrads and like them, you know, just staying up all night partying. Unless you're into that, I don't know. That's not for me to decide, but I would say yes, they tend to live more off campus, and the off campus housing is it's pretty easy to find. And I think that was a submitted question too. So we can talk about that too after we talk about this.
Can I add really quick?
Yes.
I live off campus. I really like living off campus. The bus system in Ann Arbor is free if you're a student. So even if you do not have a car, it is very possible to live off campus and get to the apartment with relatively little problem. And I've really liked living off campus and just having that like freedom of not being around undergrads, but also being able to get to the apartment really easily.
Go ahead, Hera.
Oh, I would add something. So for the grad student housing, there's also a lot of house on the North Campus. So it's Northwood. There are a lot of blue buses just go around, and also city buses, which are like really convenient to go around. And also the prices of those housing are really cheap. So that might be a good option.
Yeah, that's true. Like I live in Northwood 5, and there's one blue bus directly to our department. Yeah, so it's really convenient.
And to answer the question that was submitted kind of about how easy it is to find housing in Ann Arbor, it's pretty easy. I mean, you really shouldn't have any issue, especially if you want to live on campus. I mean, I think that obviously if there's an April 15th deadline, you know, they're going to accommodate you. Living off campus, obviously, you know, it's a college town, as Olivia said, so they kind of follow the college, like you need to get housing by, you know, when people are wanting to leave over the summer, and there's a lot of sublets, things like that. But that said, it being a college town, there's a lot of rental units, so you know, it's not super hard all the time. Do professors encourage you to work together on homework? Would you say it's a very collaborative environment? Can someone else want to answer this one?
Yeah, 100%. You should definitely work with others when you're studying, doing homework. I think it's very encouraged. Like there are probably some individual assignments where they'll say like, this is programming, you should write it yourself. But I would say like 95% of the time, it's wonderful to work with other people, and it's definitely encouraged.
Yeah, I would say too, you know, I would say it's definitely encouraged, like to reiterate what Olivia said. And I think, you know, it's your first year will be challenging academically, and it's like a nice way to bond with your cohort as well, is to struggle through some classes together and all sit there and be like, what in the world am I doing? So just FYI, you're not alone. Hera, Jim, do you guys have anything to say on that?
Yeah, I would say like working with others can help you learn something outside of the class. Like people can give you suggestions on especially some like habits, like tips on how to navigate your study, even your life, and you can make friends out of it. So it's a really good tip to work with others.
All right, so did any of you start immediately in your MS as GSRAs? How quickly did you start your research project? And was there any specific training you had to do to be prepared? I did. I came in as a GSRA. I started my research project immediately. Any specific training you had to do to be prepared? I mean, you know, I think that there's pretty much the general sentiment amongst faculty that you're not going to be immediately prepared to do like novel research or like collaborative research with people, and it's not necessarily expected. Like for me personally, I came in with a math degree, and really the only statistics class that I had taken in undergrad were like theoretical classes, and then like an econometrics class. So I actually taught myself R over the summer, which was like obviously super helpful. But it is a lot of like learning on the go, and I think that ends up being really productive. Even if at the start it seems pretty overwhelming, because you get to learn how to learn, and you get to learn how to learn fast. And I mean, I would say if there's any specific training you have to do to be prepared, I would say right off the bat, is if you don't know programming language, is to learn that. I didn't do any biology specific training, but you also learn that kind of on the go. You know, you want to like work with your collaborators if you're starting a project that's collaborative. And yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily right off the bat like super theoretical in terms of the math or anything, or at least it wasn't in my case. I don't know if anyone else has something to add on that.
I also started my GSRA my first semester, and I will say that there is a learning curve, but that's why there are other students, and that's why you have your advisor to kind of help you along a little bit. And I can definitely say that I am much more effective now as a research assistant after having done it for 3 semesters.
You definitely, you know, you learn really quick how to, you know, communicate what you're doing. And I think that that's, you know, really very stressed in a lot of the first and second year classes, is like communication of the methods and the results and things like that. And you really learn that right off the bat. You get involved with, you know, being able to answer questions and, you know, translate questions into answers. So I mean, that's a good experience. Any suggestions to increase the probability to be admitted to PhD after the MS degree? Hera, do you want to answer this? You guys just kind of went through it, right?
I don't know. Increase the probability. You have to, I would say some most important thing is like you need to have the motivation or passion to actually go further, like one step further in your academic career. So I would say the courses you've been taking, your grades is important. And also you've been here for 2 years, probably you want to try some student organization work, and your involvement in this department is also one factor. So personally, I've been doing a lot of student work here as an international student. So I would say that helps me a lot to really get involved in this department, get to know professors and students and staff. I think that's the thing I can think about.
Yeah, I would probably reiterate there, right, that you know, there's a lot of things that have to do with like your academic success and things like that, but you know, there's definitely not like a trivial portion of it that's like, you know, who you are as a person and like what you contribute to the department, you know. And I think, you know, it's helpful to you as a student too, even if it doesn't end up being or leading to admission to the PhD program, to get involved with things in the department that are interesting to you outside of academics, you know, because I think that that's, I mean, it'll help you with your admissions process, but I think it will also, you know, add quite a bit to your education as well. So does anyone else have anything to add to that one?
Yeah, I think besides the coursework and the involvement in the department, like you should also kind of have show that you have some interest in some of the topic in the research area. Yeah, so I think that one is also very important for getting into the degree. Yeah. So like besides like enjoying the department and enjoying the courses, like probably I would suggest to start the research early and to try to find a professor like in the department you like to work with him, like for your PhD.
Okay, so why did you guys choose UMich over your other choices? Can everyone just for 1 second make sure that they're muted? I think we're getting kind of some noise coming through. So I hold on. Okay. Why did everyone choose UMich over your other choices? Does anyone else want to start?
I can start. I really decided to come to Michigan actually after Admitted Students Day, and it was mainly interacting with the other admitted students and especially the faculty, and just how open the faculty were and excited they were about sharing their research, trying to get students involved, was really a selling point for me, because like this is a place you're going to like further your academic career, but it's also some place I wanted to be just really immersed and excited about the things that I was learning. And I can definitely say after 2 years that that has been the case as a student.
Yeah, I chose it originally. So I kind of chose biostatistics over, statistics, because I was interested really in, more applied stuff than I was theoretical stuff. I didn't know that much coming in. So I think that our department in general has like a lot of faculty doing a lot of work in a lot of different areas. So if you come in and you kind of don't really have like an area nailed down, or you kind of think, oh, I might be interested in this, I might be interested in this, you'll really have the opportunity to be exposed to different types of research in the department. Another good thing about UMich that I really liked is how large of a school it is, and kind of like the interdisciplinary nature of the school. And that comes in part through SPH and also in part through just the University of Michigan. There are really cool certificate programs that you can tack on to your education. You can take classes outside of the department if you really want to, that are in, there's like a form for classes that have been approved. And so you can take different classes outside of the department if you want to. So I think, it's just like a really cool school environment to be in. It's a really good educational environment to be in. And that's not only limited to our department. It's really, in the School of Public Health, and then also throughout the university. Also, UMich it's a really nice university. And, I went to like small universities or like kind of commuter schools when I was an undergrad. So it was like an exciting opportunity to come to a larger school for me, at least, and, kind of be a part of that environment. And it definitely doesn't disappoint in that way.
Yeah, so for me, when I was trying to choose my master's degree, I was kind of like choosing from like UMich, Columbia, and UCLA. So like the information I have at that point is that like if you want to continue your academic to a PhD degree, like you better choose UMich. And after the 2 years of study here, I think that's true. Because our UMich department is really friendly to the internal master students for applying to the PhD degree. I think based on my knowledge, for other schools, they treat their internal master students the same as the outside master students. So I think if you want to have a PhD, UMich is definitely a better choice than other school. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with what Chimango just said, but I would say my reason for picking this place is more about the courses. So before I came here, I was kind of debating between going to a PhD program or going to the industry. But I would say the classes here, the professors are really professional on teaching. And I kind of, just comparing the courses in UMich and Columbia, you can see the classes here are more into theory, and those professors did really good job, kind of like make me interested in learning more. I would say if you would love to continue your academic career and you would love to have a very solid foundation on the theoretical world of statistics, this is a good choice for you. And also for international students, Ann Arbor is a really good town. There are a lot of international students here. It will be really easy for you to start your new life here in another country, and it's very safe. People are friendly, so yeah.
Cool. So the next question is, I'm sure UMich offers many career resources for students. What is the main way that students find summer internships or jobs after graduating? Olivia.
Yeah, so just to give you guys a bit of background, I did an internship at Eli Lilly in between my first year and my second year. And I've also had a full-time job offer since November. So for both of those, I really utilized the SPH Careers Office and the other opportunities that are here at Michigan. So for the internship, this is back when we were in person, I went to a job fair that was hosted by the Department of Statistics and Biostatistics. And I spoke to a recruiter and kind of got myself an interview and got the ball rolling that way. I know several other students in my cohort who got their internships from career fairs, and several others who got their internships as a result of like companies bringing recruiters here to the University of Michigan and like having info sessions and just really utilizing those resources. So I think in terms of maximizing your chances of getting internships and job offers, being really like ahead of the game and kind of scouting out what companies are coming to Michigan, doing your research ahead of time so you can ask really like good questions and kind of get the recruiter's interest because they're already coming here to look for students. So just kind of making yourself stand out. And I really did use the careers office to get my resume cleaned up, to get my cover letter kind of catered to what they would be looking for. The nice thing about the SPH careers office is that they've been doing this for a while. So when I walked in and said, I want a job at the Mayo Clinic, they were like, okay, well, we've had students who've gotten jobs there before. Here's what they've highlighted, and here's how you can be successful. So that was really useful for me just because they have that experience and like getting jobs within certain industries.
Cool, thanks Lydia for that. I'll try to speed these up because we got quite a few questions, just so you know, we'll try to do a bit more answers. Again, thanks everyone for asking questions. This is really nice. More of a technical question in the Michigan Biostats department: is there a preference between PC or Mac? No, none. No, whatever you feel like suits you. I use a Mac. I know a lot of people use a PC. I think, you know, there's no preference. It's just what your personal preference is, and you know what suits you. You know, more computing power the better, obviously, but like, you know, I like a Mac because I like doing like Command C for copy, and I can't do like the Control C for that. But you know, how to apply for the GSRAs? How to get more chances of being considered as a GSRA? I don't know. This might be a better question for Dr. Benke or Nicole. I'm not sure if they're still here.
I'm here. I'm sorry. What was the question about the GSRA?
So how to apply for GSRAs and how to get more chances of being considered as GSRA?
Yeah, that's super easy because basically all students are considered for GSRA positions if we have the funding available. So the funding requirement GPA is 3.3 and most students earn that or above. And so anybody with a 3.3 or above in their second year will be considered for any extra funding as a GSI or a GSRA. The good news is there's no application. We just email you and say, hey, will you fill out this interest survey form? And then when we're doing the matching, we'll let you know if something is available.
Thank you, Nicole, for your answer. Next one. All right. Do you recommend bringing a car or using public transportation in Ann Arbor? You definitely don't need a car. Like Olivia said, my first few years here, well, yeah, most of my first few years here, I didn't have a car. It's really easy to get around. I mean, like if you live closer to campus, it's really easy to walk downtown. It's easy to walk to campus. I usually walked, you know, 20, 30 minutes a day to get to school. If you don't feel like walking, like Olivia said, the bus system's really well. There's a bus stop right outside of SPH. So, you know, getting to and from school is really, really, really easy. That being said, I mean, if you do have a car and like it's not a huge issue to bring your car, it does add, I think, you know, the ability to, you know, go to Detroit or go do different things. But if that's not something that you're super interested in, you know, there are ways to like get to Detroit and like, you know, you'll make friends who have cars and, you know, there's a bus. And so I would say absolutely not necessary. I don't know what anyone else says here.
Real quick, just want to add that I've had a car and I almost always use the bus system. It's so much more convenient than like looking for parking.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to try and drive your car to school. No. So yeah, you definitely don't. I mean, there are like lots that you can buy like parking passes for it and then take the bus from there, but then you're pretty much just still taking the bus because they're like really far from school. So yeah, I also agree with Olivia. I would have not and will not ever take my car to school. I will still use the bus system and or walk. So any suggestion to start looking for off-campus housing? Craigslist is a good opportunity, you know, like any of those, apartments.com, whatever. I would say, you know, a lot of those ones kind of have like kind of like a general umbrella of places. Like there's like bigger apartment complexes and things like that. I personally would say, you know, if you find like property management companies that have like decent reviews, it might be better to go through them, because then you get like a lot of different opportunities, like in different areas of town. I feel like there's different kind of areas of town that are like, you know, more houses that you can rent, and there's other areas of town that are like more like apartment complexes. And so I guess, I mean, I would start out in like the big ones, like what everyone says is like Craigslist and, you know, apartments and whatever. But then like, you know, once you find kind of more different management companies, there's always like a lot of different kind of hole in the wall places you can find a gem if you do a bit of research. So
there's also a housing portal too. Once you're an admitted student, if you like are looking for a roommate or something, there'll be a lot of ads that are specifically students who have like an opening and looking for a roommate that I've used in the past and has been really nice.
And I think as a last year too, a lot of the students who are incoming students, like during the pandemic, like this, they couldn't really like come and visit Ann Arbor. There will be like an admitted students, like if you all choose, or if you do choose to come to Michigan, you'll be added to like an email group, and people were emailing the group saying like, hey, I found this place, like does anyone want to live together? And I did my first year here, I like found my roommate via that housing portal, and I think that's also a really good option as well if you want to save some money and live with some other people. How to find a practicum opportunity during the summer vacation. I assume that means like a research position. Those will be, as Nicole said, right, they'll kind of be like, you'll hear about them over the course of the year, and you'll have the opportunity to talk to professors and things like that right before the summer. And if that ends up being it works out, that's good. I know a lot of people too kind of find these practicum opportunities outside of the department as well over the summer. And, you know, I think it's really just a matter of putting in the time to like search out those things and talk to professors and, you know, find what you're interested in, right? Because if you're interested in the topic, okay, there's like 40 questions, so I'm gonna try to speed this one up. When finding off-campus living opportunities, how did y'all connect with potential roommates? Yeah, so I think we just answered that one. Yeah, the housing portal is the best. I live alone now. I did not to live alone at the very beginning. Is most of your social life within your cohort? Could you describe the community inside and outside of the cohort a little more? Yeah, I'd say mine's about like, you know, 60-40. My roommate, when I moved here, was like in the biology department. I've met a lot of friends like in the law school, things like that. It's really easy to meet people outside of the department. And I would suggest that you do that. Obviously, it adds quite a bit to like your like overall experience. But that being said, you do meet a lot of your friends in your cohort, and that is like through studying and, you know, through like really like getting through grad school together. I'm still really good friends with a lot of my cohort. They all graduated, moved on. I'm still here. You know, I still, well, obviously not anymore, but like, you know, I still would hang out with them prior to this. Like we'll still talk on the phone, things like that. You know, when we graduated, when some of my friends graduated the year before I graduated, we went to like Thailand together just because why not? And so, yeah, I mean, I think that the community inside and outside the cohort is really good. I mean, it's really fantastic. There's a lot of people your age who will be living here. It's a huge graduate school. You'll be able to meet people inside and outside of the cohort. And I don't know if anyone else wants to speak on that. I think it's a great question.
I would say,
sorry, okay.
Okay, so if you take open electives from other departments, that will be a really good chance to know people outside of biostats. And also you probably get the chance to like go to North Campus taking classes, meet all those people from engineer school or some like business school people might take classes with it in our departments. So those are like a really good opportunity to know people outside of biostats.
Yeah, so I think like if you choose to leave the university housing like Northwood, then you won't have the issue of trying to find a roommate or something. Like they will randomly assign you with someone. Yeah, so like I think this is really good for the first year because you basically you know no one here, and probably you will have to like come to campus like around August. So basically your rent should start from that time. And I think like at least for the first half semester, probably live on campus is a good choice. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Hi, Hera. What is your experience to reapply to the PhD as an unfunded international MS student?
So my personal experience, like I applied for several schools and Michigan is one of the option. And also my year, there were 34 people applied. So that was the year Mike just mentioned, only like around 50% of the student admitted, but that's still a big number of students admitted. So my experience is, as I just mentioned, I did a lot of student work. So I would say that is something that really make me stand out among the candidates. So as for others, I would say it's not like if your grades is fine, if you had some experience, research experience, and you like this career as a PhD student, it should be like it's not that hard to apply for the PhD. So yeah, that's my experience. I don't know, but I guess for unfunded international student, like don't stress yourself too much. Like don't think you are like, just don't compare yourself to others. You have something that's unique to yourself that's enough for you to make you stand out. That's my experience.
It's a really nice answer. Thank you. Was the combination of coursework and being a GSRA manageable? Yes, it is. It's obviously less manageable than not being a GSRA, but it's still manageable. I mean, and my general experience is that your GSRA advisor, especially your first 2 years, is like very, cognizant of the fact that you're taking quite a few classes and that, those are the things that are important, right? Because if you don't learn those classes, then you're going to be an awful GSRA eventually. So I think that they kind of, it's an investment. Are any of the biostatistics required courses proof-based? The PhD level ones, yes. You do have to take it if you haven't taken real analysis. You do have to take that if you want to take those courses. I guess people might have a different opinion of what proof-based is depending on what your background is. So maybe you would consider 601 and 602 proof-based-ish.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you come from a math background, the answer is probably no. If you come from a non-math background, the answer is probably yes.
Yeah, I think it heavily depends on kind of what your idea of proof-based are, but from a pure math perspective, yeah, they're 801 and 802 are proof-based, but they're not, I mean, I at least in my experience, they aren't to the level of real analysis where just everything is a proof. Do you find that the fact that master's students need to reapply in order to be admitted to the PhD program makes the academic social atmosphere more competitive? Yes and no. It does make it more competitive in the fact that people who do want to get into the PhD program, but at the same time, it's a really helpful thing because you actually learn the material and it. I don't really know how to answer this question. I would say yes and no, just kind of from
I would say it's competitive the first semester, and then after that, you guys are just too good of friends for it to make a difference.
Yeah,
that's my experience.
Yeah, it seems competitive, but it's not in in the fact that you're working with everyone together, and you're kind of all competing with yourselves in the fact that you're competing with your own grades and things like that, and you all are kind of pushing each other to be better, and then so yeah, it's it's like, I would say if like you played sports, it's like a practice. If you're like really into practice, right, you kind of like hate the other people on the other team, but like they're still your friends, and things like that. And like, you know, at the end of the day, like you're all wanting each other to be better, and you know, never, you know, you never, like, I don't know any situation in which people are like disliking each other or anything like that because of the atmosphere at all. I think it's always really, you know, supportive and things like that, and you know, everyone wants the best for each other. Like, you know, it makes it competitive, but I think it makes everyone actually in the program better friends, if that makes sense. So
yeah, like in 699, that's kind of like your master's capstone class. When one of my classmates gives like an awesome presentation and I know it's better than mine, I'm just like so happy for them. You know what I mean? It's not, doesn't seem competitive at all to me.
So did any of you find yourselves picking between schools with 1 year and 2 year programs? If so, why would you recommend Michigan over a 1 year program? I did not. Did anyone else?
Aren't those like MPHs that are 1 year?
Yeah, I don't even know if those programs exist. I guess that would be a personal thing. I mean, I guess it kind of depends how much time you want to spend in school. And how much you think you can learn in 1 year, and what your career goals are. I mean, obviously a 2 year program is going to be more in depth in terms of the things that you learn. Obviously, you're going to be in school longer, so there's definitely a trade-off. Why would I recommend Michigan over a 1 year program? Probably be because you will probably objectively learn a little bit more and be more prepared for, like, if you get the same job from both programs, you'll probably do a better job in that job, given that you had 2 years of schooling. But I guess that kind of
wish different about the department or the program. Wish it was different.
Man, that's tough. Right now I wish it was in person. But is anyone else?
I think I would say it was somewhat challenging because this is a big graduate program. So do you keep that in mind when you're considering this program versus other programs? Like, this cohort is a lot bigger than other schools. I don't know if I necessarily would wish it was different, but it was kind of an interesting adjustment for me because my undergrad program was pretty small.
Yeah, I don't. This is a good question. I would say maybe that the food was better in the cafe downstairs, or that we had nicer coffee. I don't know. Do GSRAs typically continue to work as a GSRA over the summer? Do they do an internship elsewhere? I worked over the summer as a GSRA, but I think Olivia had a GSRA and worked as an intern. So I think it just depends on what you want to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you know about the application result for a PhD outside Michigan? I mean, for master's students who don't stay at Michigan but apply to PhD at other universities. So yes, when I was applying for the PhD here, I was applying to different PhD programs as well. As a master's student, you kind of find out on more or less the same timeline. Here, you know, as an internal master's student, you find out like a little bit earlier. I think this is what this question is asking. Some people do end up leaving, and you know, that's okay. And I think that that's another kind of, I would say, benefit in terms of like that, like competitive nature, is that, like, you know, if you find out that like this isn't the program for you, and like, you know, that there's people not doing research, like you are offered the opportunity to like, you know, go somewhere else. But yes, you find out, I would say prior to then, you find out at most of the universities if you're applying like through our internal master's program to the PhD. I think it's been a little bit elongated or delayed in like the last 2 years because, as Dr. Banky said, there's, you know, a lot more people applying, but I mean, you still find out early in the admissions process. Okay, are any of the biostatistics courses required proof-based? I already answered that one. I want to know if these MS and PhD fast track students who are admitted without the GRE had to write it when it's required for fall 2022. I don't know the answer to that. Nicole, do you know that one? I don't know if that's been decided.
Yeah, it hasn't been decided yet. We're not clear about whether the GRE will be brought back or not. But information will be posted as soon as we get.
Are there any courses or activities that aren't strictly required, but almost everyone does or should do? Join StatCom. Just kidding. I'm the co-president of StatCom, just so FYI. I think it's a really good opportunity.
Be a peer mentor your second year.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Hare runs that program. I think, and it's really, really nice. And it's really good. I mean, it's good when you're an incoming student because you get matched with someone, you know, they can help you with things that you might not know. But yeah, I mean, it's really nice to kind of be there for a different student. Serving on committees is fun because you get to know faculty, things like that. There's a lot of different committees you can serve on. I would say go to the seminars because you'll learn something. Your first year, you definitely won't have any idea what's happening in them, but it's still good to show up. Usually there's like cookies and stuff, but I mean, obviously that's not happening right now. I would say like outside of that, go to some sporting events, go to some comedy shows, you know, take advantage of Ann Arbor. Study a lot, but don't study too much. Like live your life a little bit. Any recommendations for apartment complexes or neighborhoods, locations for off-campus housing? Yeah, there's a lot of good. I mean, I don't want to like plug any apartment complexes here, but I would say for neighborhoods at least. I live like on what's called like the Old West Side. I think a lot of graduate students live here. A lot of people live in Carytown, which is just right north of campus and downtown. A lot of grad students live on North Campus or up in that area. Not a lot of like South U. South U is like for undergraduates. And yeah, I would say.
I definitely love North Ann Arbor. That's where I live. It's a little bit more secluded. I'd recommend it.
Yeah, and then if you want to live like outside of Ann Arbor, Ypsi's a nice place to live. I know a lot of people live in Ypsilanti. It's cheaper. The bus system goes there. It'll take you right to campus. So that's nice. And it's a nice little place to live too. There's cool restaurants, things like that.
Yes. Actually, I was trying to look for a 1B department recently. So I have did some research about like the local communities. So I think like in terms of convenience, like to come to the department, like I think the choice is kind of really limited. I find like three neighborhood that I would like to move to like for next semester. One is the Arbor Village, second is the Willow Tree, third is Travel Crossing. Like those places all have buses directly to the department. And the Willow Tree and the Travel Crossing is on the North Campus, and like Arbor Village is kind of on the south side of Ann Arbor. And if you don't mind like living in kind of like Ypsilanti or like outside Ann Arbor, I think like Spice Tree is also a good place, but that's a little bit far away. Yeah.
My personal experience is like if you like to live in an apartment complex, you can search on Google Maps. So the Ann Arbor 23 bus line. So it basically goes through like the major apartment complex, and also it goes to our department, which is really convenient. So just 23 goes from the central campus to the north campus, and it goes by most of the major apartment complex in Ann Arbor. So you can check that
out. Okay, next one is use a tissue, Ben. Thank you. I will think about this next time. I'll take this as a twofold question. One, your allergies won't get that bad here. And then two, the stipend is good enough here that you won't have trouble affording tissues, although I don't have one. So thanks, Ryan. I'll take your advice next time. What is the career outlook like for international students?
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
for the people I know, so from my cohort, we just graduated last summer, and I would say more than half of them went to like the industry instead of continue their academic career, and most of them got jobs in the United States, and some of the international students, like my friends, they went back to China. A lot of people went to some hospital related organizations or hospitals, and some of them went to, like, you know, there are a lot of car companies here in Detroit, so they went there as statisticians. I would say, like, even though we're studying biostatistics, our career path is not limited to something like bio. It's basically like all the data scientist works are really suitable for us. And some of them went to consultant company. So yeah, that's all the knowledge I know.
Yeah, from my cohort, I think most of them will continue as a PhD, like either in our program or in the other programs. And I do know, like in my cohort, I think there's only one the student who is like looking for industry jobs, and actually he got, I think he got many kind of internships in high tech companies like Amazon, like Apple, yeah. So that's all the knowledge I have.
So in general, for all students, what is the employment rate? Do you know how many students who are struggling to find jobs post-grad? In my experience, I don't know of anyone who had a problem finding a job. I don't actually know the exact number. Nicole or Dr. Venke, do you know that?
According to our website, 99% of 2019 grads are working in the industry. So there's that. I would definitely recommend using the School of Public Health website. They do actually keep lists of where grad students found jobs after they graduated. So you can like literally check and see what companies they got jobs at, right? Because if a company hired a UMich grad student and they really like them, they'll hire another one. So that's really helpful. That's what I looked into when I was looking for jobs.
Yeah, just historically, things have been very good. And I fully expect that to continue. I mean, obviously, COVID brings more uncertainty. But by the time you all are going to be looking for positions, I think things are going to be back to normal from that perspective. Knock on wood, but I really believe that's the case. And historically, students who look for jobs have choices of lots of different jobs. And that's, you know, honestly, I don't think I would advise people to pick a particular area on which to focus. Just because there are jobs available, life is too short to do something you're not interested in. On the other hand, you've come here today, you've said you're interested in biostatistics. I have good news. There are lots of jobs available, and you shouldn't have a problem finding a good job when you complete your education. And my apologies, there's some noise in the background here. My 2 grandchildren just arrived, but I'll continue. So maybe now is a good transition point. Thanks very much, everybody, students, for being here and presenting. Ben, is there another student panel continuing after 12:30? How is that working?
Yeah, so there's one we have it, I think, set up from 12:30 to 1:15. So, you know, if you want to take a break and gather your thoughts, come back with some different questions, or, you know, ones that you were shy to ask. And the faculty will be there. I think that Harris actually holding one at 9 p.m. tonight too, for people in different time zones who can't make one right after this, or who would prefer to have it at that time. So, yep, we will be there. So, more questions.
Thanks again so very much. I've been here in the background, sort of trying to ignore, because normally when we do this in person, all the faculty, all the staff go away, so that it's just the students interacting. Sorry, we can't easily do that in this Zoom climate. But thanks very much for being here to present. I think Bramar in the end had to leave, but Nicole and I are back, and current students, if you'll stick around too, because some as we go forward, there may be more questions. We have nominally 8 more minutes on the schedule, and I noticed someone asked about my cool sweatshirt, which I like, actually. It is a School of Public Health sweatshirt. The Public Health Student Association sells them every year. And because I'm really good at losing things, my wife, Betsy Foxman, who is a faculty member in epidemiology, typically buys me a new one every year. So I've actually succeeded in the last 2 years in not losing them. So I've actually got 3 at the moment, but they are routinely available. And it's a very cozy sweatshirt. I don't want to do too much advertising, but I like it a lot. And it does have the school flag on it here after all. So. Okay, are there other questions in the chat?
I will say, I think you do get one of these cool biostat shirts that Olivia's wearing. So.
Yeah, that is normally part of our swag when people attend any of our biostatistics events, including, I think, new student orientation. Is that right, Nicole?
Yes, I think we gave those out in person. I can't remember if we mailed those out last year. I think we might have actually for orientation.
Yeah, and also besides the Biostat t-shirt, you also get this public health t-shirt. Yeah.
And don't forget the Biostat mug. Yes, indeed.
Oh, right.
I love that mug. I use it every day.
You also get like a silverware holder that I use for my pens.
Okay. Are there other questions? And feel free to just speak up at this point if you'd like.
Oh, there was one question we didn't actually address about where biostat courses take place. Almost exclusively SPH. So there's 2 SPH buildings. We call them School of Public Health 1 and School of Public Health 2 because they're really creative and almost all your classes are there. They're connected by a bridge, so you don't need to go outside during the winter. And this is actually like a really great selling point, guys. I can't stress it enough.
And actually, Olivia, even though you don't see them very often, but those buildings really have names. One is the Thomas Francis Building, named after the person who led the study to evaluate the first polio vaccine, and the other, the Henry Vaughan Building, which was a dean a long time ago in the school, even before I joined.
I've only ever heard them referred to as SPH1 and SPH2.
That's all we call them.
Yeah.
Other questions? And so here's a question for our international students. Hera, do you want to, are you still here? Or
yes, I'm reading this right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Language and culture and different welcome. I would say as for classes, the teaching like learning modes you're mentioning here is pretty similar. So I got my undergrad back in China, Sichuan University. So I would say the classes themselves are pretty similar. So as for taking classes, you don't have to worry too much. And also the professors are very kind. They would upload all the teaching materials on Canvas, which is a website you might use in the future. So if you couldn't like understand everything, you can read the notes, go to the office hour afterwards. As for the language, I would say since you are currently in China or in other Asian countries, you might not have the environment to practice your English. But after you come here, I would say the whole environment makes you like speak English more, which is a really good practice. And people here are really, really friendly. So don't worry and don't feel embarrassed to speak, to practice with domestic students. And in that way you can make friends. They will help you a lot in your own study. And yeah, I would say like our department is really friendly, nice. You can make friends here. So that would help you to get involved in this community more easily.
Yeah, so from my experience, because I graduated from my college in China, so I think kind of like in China, basically the college kind of plan everything for you, so you don't have to do anything. You just follow their guides, and but like in here it's a different story. Like you really have to manage most of the things yourself. And then like if you have a question, you have to ask. And I think like the people here, like either the faculty or the students in our department, they are really willing to help you resolve your issues. Like no matter it's academic or it's for your living. So I think like in here, like basically you have to stand out, you have to reach out to people. Like if you have the question, yeah, you shouldn't wait for other people to reach out to you. Yeah, that's my suggestion.
Okay, well, we're getting close to 12:30, at least in the Eastern time zone. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank our students for presenting. Thanks, Shu, for talking, Bramar, Nicole, and most particularly thanking all of you for taking the time to join us today. As pointed out, there are opportunities to continue talking with students here right away or this evening, continued opportunities to speak with faculty. And as we talked about at the start, there are still spots available with most of us faculty. And thanks very much for considering our program. Again, we'd love to have you join us here in the fall, and look forward to hearing from you what your decision will be, and happy to take additional questions if you should have additional questions. Nicole, any last words of advice?
No, just please reach out if you have any questions. I'm not sure what all that noise is. It sounds like a robot joined us. And happy to answer any questions you have. Shoot me an email.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.